Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries. We have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour yourself a nightcap and turn your fright light while we take you on a tour of terror.
Oop, there we go.
There we
There
are.
we
What
go.
up? There it is.
Hello.
Yeah. All good. Very good. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday, Scaries. What's going on? I see Necro with the dinosaur symbol. Yes, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about some of the events that happened this weekend. As we know, a very big dinosaur movie came out this weekend, and that is Paw Patrol. Something dinosaur movie. So yeah, that was a great one. We had a great time. It was awesome, wasn't it, Luke?
It was a must-see.
A must-see, absolutely. What's happening? Let's see who we got. We got Rob in here. What's going on, Rob? Welcome. We have other Rob in here. We got Rob K and Erica. What's going on as usual? Welcome. Thank you as always for moderating. Penelope, what's happening? Violet, what's going on? Yep. Everybody here. Let's see. Jump down, I think. Yep. And then we got Gracie. What's going on? Necro, as I said. And then what's up, Teo? How you doing? And let's see, Violet here. Just stopping in for the first 15 minutes for dinner. Had a long but good week away, seeing family, and my brother's wedding, still recovering. Oh, well, heck yeah, definitely. Enjoy. I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad you had a fun vacation.
Sounds
weddings. Like a very busy time. Yeah, weddings are awesome. They can be fun, but very stressful to set up, you know? Very. Yeah, this is like Adrian's like, I almost died.
Speaking straight from experience.
Oh, no.
What happened?
Somebody's already here saying I was disappointed by the end of Oak Street. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I quite had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good little flick. Adrian, did you get around to seeing that this weekend?
I did not, but that was kind of one of the points of the short that I chopped up for TikTok and Instagram today. It was titled, was End of Oak Street, or rather, is this movie actually scary? And got to kind of condense y'all's opinions about it a little bit from the review video.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think like overall it's a good time. It's not like, I think the only thing you could say call it a disappointment from is like if you want like really scary horror dinosaurs, because it's not really that. They're scary, but it's like Luke coined it best. It's science fiction scary. You know, it's like it's they're attacking people, they're eating things and stuff, but it's not like, you know, we're watching guts get ripped out and stuff by these dinos like some people are looking for.
Yeah, like I guess when I look at dinosaur horror, I've never been scared by dinosaurs. I think it is that very science fiction kind of horror where it's like you can appreciate the tension, you can appreciate the design, but I don't know if I've ever actually been terrified. Not that I remember that even like Jurassic Park scared me as a kid or anything. I just was more so in awe of the spectacle of just seeing the dinosaurs on screen. I think End of Oak Street is the same way, where it's like I can appreciate it. We talk about it in the review. It feels like a Amblin film, like Joe Johnston, like a Jumanji back in 1995, where it's like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's maybe some scary ideas, but it's not a terrifying type of film. It's more so you can appreciate it and get lost in the characters and just the absolute spectacle of the film.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, Teo. I love that. That's funny. Yeah, we kind of did that, and then like at the end, I have no clue. You guys have to tell me if they actually pop up. But sometimes when you guys are saying goodbye at the end, I'll just let the messages pop up as the outro is playing. I have no clue if they're coming up or not, but I do it anyway, so it's kind of fun. Also, I was glad they had feathers. Yes, there were feathers on most of the dinos in the movie and other creatures that we see, because we should say it's not just necessarily dinosaurs we're seeing a lot of prehistoric things. There is a moment in there that is very shocking. It's something. Yeah, I did not see it coming. It was I yelped in the theater, basically, just plain shock and like, holy cow. So I'm excited to dive into that with you eventually when you get around to seeing it, because it's a good movie. It is, unfortunately, I can confirm, no, this is not a Secret Cloverfield movie. So unfortunately,
there's a lot of speculation out there about that.
Unfortunately, that's just going to happen when you have J.J. Abrams now. He's the Cloverfield guy. If he's not doing a big franchise, he's Cloverfield. Everything could be it. But it's a good little original dinosaur flick. I had a fun time. I think it's certainly worth checking out and something that I'm looking forward to watching again and excited to show Atticus. But again, one of those, I'm not sure. Like if I take him to the theater, I feel like some of the stuff with the dinos might freak him out a little bit because they're on a different level. They feel more animalistic than Jurassic Park has recently, I should say.
And and I also think that maybe has to deal with the neighborhood setting as well. Like I brought up in the review where it seems like every Jurassic Park we get either there's some sort of scientist or they have some sort of military background where they know what to expect, where this one just feels you get lost in the story at the very beginning for like the first 30 minutes. You just get steeped into the community and the relationships of all these characters, and then the dinosaur stuff starts happening. So it's I think it's a little more relatable on those elements than something like Jurassic Park, where I think I appreciate this a little bit more because it's like I had fun with what was the last Jurassic World we had seen? I'm forgetting.
Rebirth. Yeah.
Rebirth. It was a fun theatrical experience. But I think this one I felt a little bit more of a connection. I told Dylan after we had walked out of there, where it's like they do such a great job of setting up the community that it feels like this could be. I was almost upset that I was going to be getting dinosaurs for the rest of the film because it felt like a great setup for like a slasher or just a really throwback kind of horror film. I think the dinosaurs work, but it's like that kind of storytelling and just world building is what I want in a lot of horror films that I feel like miss the mark with their character development because it felt like they were just really in tune with how to set a solid foundation to make you care before we even get into that dinosaur science fiction element.
Yeah, they do a good job with that. This really made me want to see a live action Magic Treehouse. If anybody read those as a kid, like those were awesome books when I was growing up. And like the first one deals with dinosaurs and just like how they integrated like the kids running around with them in like a neighborhood setting. I was like, you could have a lot of fun with that if they wanted to expand that a little bit. But I did like I again, it had serious moments. It had moments where it was, pretty funny. There's a couple of very memorable moments. I know Gracie pointed out here with I believe it's a Apatosaurus getting to taste ice cream. Yeah, that was awesome. There's a couple little good moments like that. There's one really funny moment involving some long neck dinos. They're getting some stuff going on, and that's cool. It was funny, and yeah, overall, a lot of cool stuff. And again, there's other things, not just dinosaurs. I can say that I'm hinting towards one real big one that's really fun and cool and has like one really interesting and unique scene. Yeah, Anne Hathaway. Yep, she was great. I mean, honestly, I know people have been praising her, but like looking back on it, like she really had a lot of weight to carry in that movie as far as just like her character goes, especially as we get deeper into that third act. It's like, good Lord, that's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's tough.
That's where it's like I loved Anne Hathaway's character, what she's already dealing with, and how we develop her. Again, before we get into the science fiction elements, but I also love Ewan McGregor's character as what we find out about his character later on in the film. It's like they're both dealing with separate issues that they haven't brought to each other, but then they kind of get thrown in this complete wacky scenario that makes them open up a little bit more. But then also, like from the kids' perspective, I didn't necessarily like the kids, but they make those immature decisions that put the family in peril, which I was like, okay, they're doing their job and they're pushing the story forward. So I like those elements because they can be frustrating at times, but that's what the characters are there for, is because they're immature. And so they had a great handle, I think, on the complete family dynamic. And again, a solid foundation through the lens of those characters before we get into the bigger science fiction pieces, because Dylan talked about there is one pretty big shocking moment in there that was just like, oh my gosh. And I think really impressed by the storytelling. It's not like a true blue horror film in any sense. You don't get those elements, but I just love the way they set everything up. And it does feel like this one is going to have a lot of rewatchability. I'm excited to show my daughter as well this one because I think she can have a lot of fun. She loves dinosaurs, but I think even though she doesn't understand a lot of the dialogue and things that are going on. I think she can appreciate those, just the wacky performances and how they have great chemistry with each other, just from the way that you can feel them on screen. So I think it kind of just draws your attention to those elements. And then a lot of great dinosaur visuals, which is always a big portion of that. If it looks terrible, you're not going to feel invested. But I think End of Oak Street really did hold up their end of the bargain on that aspect as well.
Also, like the idea of just having dinosaurs running around your neighborhood, I feel like as a kid, everybody at one point or another had that nightmare or just had that like vision in their head of like, what would it be like if yeah, exactly, like a bunch of, you know, Brachiosaurus were just like out in that field, or like a T-Rex is walking by my window. Like, it's just like a movie that like really scratches that itch, I think, that everybody kind of has, just because, like, I don't know, if you want to say, probably, I know it really scaled up when like the 90s and stuff with Jurassic Park becoming a huge thing, but like I think dinosaurs have been really popular with kids forever. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it's just universally loved and praised among generations. And now it's like at the ultimate peak where we have another, you know, other dinosaur property. We can make these things for relatively cheap. I mean, we can buy packs of things. They're not like the best animations, but we can make dinosaur movies if we want. You know, the Asylum has shown us it can be done. So, you know, but yeah, no, I think it's really worth watching. Certainly a lot of fun. I also, yeah, I do want to shout out Nerding Out about this with Gracie here. I like how the dinosaurs weren't 100% in hunting mode. Big predators usually aren't. They have to conserve their energy. I like the one dino that stopped chasing when it had some water. It was kind of realistic. And I agree. I think that is super cool that they lose interest in stuff, because if you also look at it like, you know, yes, they will chase these people for a little bit, but they're also, you know, actually taking damage, which I think is great, because like, I'm not to spoil anything, but there are more than a few times the dinosaurs get shot with guns in this thing, and they actually like almost die or basically die or walk off to bleed out. Like it's pretty good. Like that's the thing that like kind of annoys me. I know at Jurassic Park, you kind of have to make the dinosaurs big, tough, and invincible, especially with the hybrids. But it's like, I feel like, you know, in the Lost World, the dude had an elephant gun for a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like, that's good enough. Like, what do you mean? And an M4 like A1 can't just take down a you know, at least a raptor or something, you know what I mean, in a couple shots. Like, it's just one of those where I appreciated that. Like, there was a lot of really, I think you could just tell, all in all, there was a lot of passion when it came to just not only the dinosaurs, but just really making this movie like to the best of its ability. And I appreciate it. So, yeah. Sue me.
Very well put.
Yep. Totally grew up on dinosaur media. Yeah, same here. And that's the thing. Like, I think it just works. Like, every kid I know at some degree or another has enjoyed dinosaurs. Like, my niece, my nephew loved them more. My son loves them more than him. And even, you know, Ella loves dinosaurs. And it's like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they just are universally appreciated.
I feel like it's one of those like first childhood toys is you always get like the plastic dinosaurs to play with. I know I did. And I used to watch the old school Land of the Lost was on cable television a lot growing up. And, you know, I just get the visual. I mean, they're terrible now, but like as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, you get to see a dinosaur on screen.
Land Before Time was pretty big also on TV when I was a kid.
Yep, I used to watch that all the time. And then, of course, Jurassic Park being such a big deal when that came out in the early 90s. It's like, I feel like dinosaurs are one of those tentpole things that kids go through. It's always like you love dinosaurs at some point in your life, whether that still continues throughout adulthood, but it's like at some point you always have a dinosaur or a group of dinosaurs that you get to play with. Plus, I know Dylan, you made the joke about like Paw Patrol and stuff, but it's like dinosaurs pop up in almost every kind of media, like some sort of crossover or something like that. It's like a layup.
They're always a winner, dude. Yeah, it's like Paw Patrol. I mean, honestly, my son wants to see that. We're planning on maybe checking it out next weekend. So it's like, you know, I'm down. I'm fine with it. When Ice Age, when they went back for Dawn of the Dinosaurs, that was sick. Everybody loves that. Even 65. Remember, we went to try to go see that on opening night, and it was sold out.
Yeah.
Like, dinosaurs, they draw people in, and people bitch and moan all they want, but they do what they do. And I agree. True. Big cats are probably asleep 80% of the time and would make for a boring movie, though. Absolutely.
Facts.
Yep. That's why you always got to give them rabies or something crazy, or like, you got to make them a rogue predator. This is
Dino
not
rage
the
virus.
same. Yes. Or we have to pump drugs in their brain to make them smarter. That's how you got to write
scary.
these movies, guys. Oh, also, Erica did comment on your Killer Clowns cup. She just saw.
Oh, yes, check it out. I do love this. This is my favorite cup as well. I just love Killer Clowns.
Yep, she just saw it for the first time.
For the first time. And Erica, what was the verdict on that one? I won't take anything less than a must-see all-time classic, because that's what Killer Clowns from Outer Space is.
Let me see here. Well, I'm getting things popped up back on this thing. I didn't ask. How was everybody's week, Adrian? How are
See, Erica knows. She loved it.
There it is.
Case closed. All-time classic. Erica approved, everybody. Still holds today, even in a modern viewing.
Let's go. My week was cool, man. I got my Friday the 13th final chapter completed, like basically right after. I mean, I watched it Monday. I was fresh off that discussion on Sunday. I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm just gonna up and watch it, and I did. And as far as the rest of the week goes, man, just a lot of working, a lot of getting stuff around the house figured out. Working on things. I wanted to say like something happened, but it's escaping my mind right now. So, oh well, it is what it is. But y'all can just trust it was a decent week. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was busy. I had a crazy busy week just personally, a lot of family stuff going on and things. But we're surviving, we're getting through, and it was just a lot of running around. But Luke was there. He understood. We had to record a bunch of stuff, but we were very productive little bees. We've got a lot of things already popping up. So I want the Patreon subscribers especially to know that there's a video going up right after the show here that I'm releasing that's going up on there. And then your guys are going to have a bunch of content coming through the next couple of days, because we've been really getting ahead. So it's been very nice to finally be like this far ahead on things, because it also gives us time now to really get to play with new tools, new details and things. So it's cool.
Yeah. I watched a lot of new stuff this week. One of the lists that Dylan and I are going to have come out here in the next couple of weeks is 5 films we had missed that have been released over, the last month or a month and a half. So of course it was 5 new films for me. And, I know we sometimes get criticism of like being too positive on films. Well, there are a couple in here that are just complete bullshit. So
yeah,
we get to be
thank you for
negative for a little bit. Some are just downright terrible. So it'll be a nice change of pace, I guess, if you think we're too positive, because I think we kind of are a little selective on what we choose, because it's like if it interests us, we'd rather go see it. If it looks bad from a preview, I think we're so busy now that we don't have time to dedicate to it.
It is one of those things where, yeah, it's tough to, like, I guess, explore as much as we used to, especially when it's like a lot of the things that like we used to get for screeners and stuff sometimes are a little bit more there's always a few more strings attached these days too, with like, they want you to do an interview and things like that. And sometimes it's just like trying to plan all of that and try to get the videos out on time, which hopefully us getting ahead like this will certainly help. But I think for now it's just, we've been a bit more selective. We try to see stuff that like obviously we want to take chances on, and I still think we do, but like for the most part it's like, we try our best to at least see stuff that we're going to have hopefully a decent time with. And of course, if there's a bigger movie like the most recent Insidious or something that I don't know if I would go seek out necessarily if I was not on the channel, like that's going to happen. But it's just it's a little bit of that, and I think it does happen more often than we like to admit. But also I think it comes down to some stuff doesn't get reviewed right away, or stuff gets saved for other things. We've been selective about what we release. So,
and another thing this week is we should have some sort of Insidious video coming out this coming week. So I did get stuck in the Insidious world for more time than I'd care to admit in terms of connecting some dots and things, because there's some kind of interesting things going on in that universe, especially as we get to talk about that one, because that is something where I haven't been sold on that franchise in a minute, so yeah, like you, I wouldn't seek out of the further if we weren't doing the channel. But it's like one of those. It's such a big release coming up, and kind of it's wild that we're halfway through August, going into September, because everything's going to really start gearing up here for October and stuff. So Splatterthon's on its way, and it's like I always like equated to like Resident Evil for me was like that's the milestone to get to the Halloween season. So it's like and that's just a little over a month right now. So it's
Yeah, it's
wild
kind of
how quick
wild that that's
everything
coming
is.
so fast. Oh
Yeah,
my
no
God.
doubt.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. Of just like it's crazy how fast things are going, but also I'm excited to see a lot of these movies. I think like the thing that's cool is there's a good chunk of stuff. Like this week was relatively quiet. I think we only had the End of Oak Street review and the 2 list videos, so nothing too fancy. But the next couple of weeks, like we said, we have a lot of new stuff that has finally getting its embargoes lifted, stuff like that we'll be covering. So it's going to be pretty good. Like I'm definitely excited to start talking about some of the stuff that we've gotten a chance to see, because I'm not going to lie, the end of August here is going to be pretty strong. Like end of August, early September releases are pretty strong for horror so far.
Yeah, I think we're crossing that point to really start amping up a lot of the horror releases, because this is really when people really start getting into it. I mean, Spirit Halloween around us
Oh
has
yeah.
opened up, so it's like as soon as that opens up, you kind of know it's like people are getting in that mode right now of wanting to be scared. And it's like I'll tell you, watching everything that I did watch and more misses than hits this week, and then actually I finished my viewing of the final chapter, which we'll talk about later, last night. So I was like, okay, this was the perfect kind of end cap to get ready for Sunday Scaries.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. I like hearing that Adrian went straight from the show to watching it, because I always get excited with those. I actually ended up watching this one yesterday. So like I was trying to get to it. I thought I was going to hit it a couple times this week, but admittedly, like I said, I was just kind of running around doing a lot of extra stuff and jumping through a couple extra hoops. And there was a couple of phone calls each. These gentlemen of a lot of just talking their ears off, sympathizing and hoping for the best.
And vice versa.
Let's see. You're trying to review more important and interesting horror. Leave all the crappy films for bad movie reviewers and those masochists who are trying to see everything. Hello, Gracie.
Hello, Gracie. Burn.
Love it. Honestly, there are some years where it's like I have the drive and the burn to do that, to want to see like just about everything. But like since we did the channel, like I've noticed that there are other years where it's like I want to just focus more on like making the fun content videos that we do, because those are really what at the end of the day I think for a long time were the only things that would get us traction. Like our reviews were good for people who were like always coming in and watching the stuff, always liked our opinions on things that we all talk and converse here. But like the list videos are what got like a bulk of the attention to the channel. So it's kind of been interesting finding a balance. But recently, like within the last 6 months or so, it's been really nice to see like just our reviews in general, just actually like some of them actually getting up there in numbers compared to like some of the other people. Like we're not going to get like Cody's numbers or anything anytime super soon, but like the fact that they've grown like that has been really honestly very humbling, because it's like it's a very reassuring thing that like we don't have to cut that, because that was kind of like the backbone of the channel for a long time.
Yeah, it was we'd always almost have to reconcile that we probably going to see a bigger release would result in smaller numbers for us, because the market was so saturated with those reviews that people weren't really coming to our channel for that. We would get some of the smaller stuff that other people weren't reviewing, and from like Screambox or Shudder. Before Shudder, I think, really started hitting one after another and really being such a major player for its original content. But those reviews would do higher numbers than something that we would go see at the theater and that everyone's covering. But now it's like those reviews are starting to catch up a little bit, which is really interesting, because I started noticing it a couple months ago when it was like we were consistently getting over like 1,000, 2,000 views on one of our reviews, which was really interesting, because before it was like, okay, we're doing this to kind of stay relevant in terms of keeping the reviews fresh, but we knew it wasn't really going to produce anything. But like what we did, like the Ice Cream Man,
Mhm.
I think our Evil Dead Burn did pretty
Yeah,
well.
that one did well. And that
Um,
was one that we just got to see. Like, even but like to me, anything that gets over 1,000 views is like a success in my book still when it comes to stuff, because like that was such a threshold for so long of like, holy crap, unbelievable success. So I kind of like, I guess, burned that internally into my brain. But like, yeah, I think like just the fact that most of them will continue to get views long after the relevancy of it is been very cool to see too. It's like some of them may not pop right away, but like, again, like Luke said, we would have ones where you'd post talking about a new horror movie that's already out, and it's like, yeah, you're getting oversaturated with everybody else putting out their reviews, and then you just wind up with like maybe 5-10 views, and that's it. And it's like you can't compete with it. But yeah, I mean, it's been nice, it's been cool. It is also just like exciting now because like I don't want to miss certain things. Like there's certain things where it's like they're coming out and it's like instead of being like, oh man, it's like I can't make time for this, or we got to do this, or we got to prioritize this, it's like we're on top of it, like doing our best to make sure we can catch these. Because yeah, it's like people, it's nice to have people who genuinely, whether we get an early screening or not, who want to just talk to us about this stuff. So it's fun.
it's funny how early screenings sometimes don't even result in bigger numbers at the time. It's like until everyone starts actually seeing the film, and then that's when people start coming in and having a discussion. But even like, we had always talked about, doing a little long form, I guess lesser new stuff where it's like we just talked about District 9 on one of our lists here, our most recent list, and it was like Dell and I had just mentioned in there was like, hey, we'd love to do like a long form discussion on this. I know we had a couple of comments to be like, oh yeah, definitely do it. But it's like those ideas would be so much fun to do as well, where it's like we can kind of, if we ever get to that point, to just do like a big film retrospective or something, like kind of like how we do here
That'd be
with
sick.
Friday 13th, where it's like just a half hour, 45 minutes or something like that. So maybe we'll get to that point, but it is kind of refreshing to see at least there's some interest in those aspects of things rather than just some of the normal stuff that we've been doing.
Yep. And I mean, again, it's like we're just very lucky to be doing any of this, like at any capacity with any like grain of success. Cause like there's even looking at it like now, like not to turn this into a whole thing, but it's like, the fucking YouTube monetization guidelines have all changed again. And like there's a bunch of like new hurdles for people who, aren't monetized already and things like that, or will be coming eventually. So it's like it's one of those where they're kind of making the barrier of entry a little bit harder. And ultimately that's going to swing one of two ways. And I'm hoping, at least in our like favor, it means that like ad revenue will hopefully be a little bit, better as far as like the split goes and stuff for people. But who really knows? At the end of the day, I just think if you're really interested in doing this and you want to make it something that like you want to try to get to this point where you're doing it full time, like just know that you're going to have to just really like dedicate and push through and keep pushing. Cause like, yeah, there's a lot of shit where it's like, even now when it's like some people will like comment and be like, oh my God, I can't believe like you guys have all these people who watch this stuff. It's like, even it's like, it's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of stuff that just never feels like we're fully hitting the full like bar yet. So it's like, it's crazy, but I just want everybody who feels discouraged, or anybody who's like, hey, I with the new guidelines shifting and stuff, is this even still achievable? I very much think it is, but it's just literally about just willing to really just make it a part of your daily activities. Like when we were doing our full-time jobs, it was like, I think Luke can attest to this, it was just, this was a second job. It was another piece of our life. Like you had to interact with it at least once, twice a day.
Yeah, what a wild experience that was, because you get off to your normal 9 to 5 and then hop on. And I remember we'd have to like just hop on almost right after, as soon as I think Dylan got home, and we would just batch record some stuff. Sometimes we were doing 3 reviews in one day just so that we could get them banked and then start editing them so we can release them throughout the week. So it was definitely a lot of work, to just that balancing act of getting everything done in a timely manner, and especially then when we were doing so many reviews of new films, and we'd have like 3 or 4 screeners, to get through of random films and stuff like that. So it was certainly hard to keep up with, but it's like, you know, a light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, in some aspect, where it's like, maybe we'll get there on one day, and it's like even then you don't even know. So it's like you never know if you're chasing a dream that's never actually going to come to fruition or anything like that. So, but definitely long hours there because we'd be up at midnight sometimes doing stuff. I remember staying up really late in editing and stuff just to get out a review.
Thursday nights were always the best. Like especially because like the best times were when I could get off work at 4:30 and hope that they'd have a screening for the movie that I want to see with Luke at 5 or 4:45 ish. Because where I worked, the theater was right around the corner, so I had that luxury, so I could get there real quick. And like when we could end that, and the movie's only like an hour and a half, and it was at least decent. Man, I was in such a good mood because I could drive home and have enough time to make some dinner real quick, and then just immediately hop into just getting this thing. But yeah, normally it was like you're going to bed 1 o'clock in the morning after processing, getting it up, and then just waking up at 6 a.m. the next day. So it was crazy, man. It was. But again, I say this all just to like, again, I just hear a lot of people saying like you're gonna see a lot of videos and stuff being like, oh, it's like you can't do this anymore, like nobody can get into it anymore because like smaller channels are dead and stuff. And it's like I don't believe that. I think that like we had stuff change for us as we were still climbing up, even just to get monetized at 1,000 subscribers, I think it was at the time. And it's like I think it's still very much achievable, but like I think it's just about learning and taking the time to refine your stuff and really like learn from it and try to find things that are just not trying to chase like the whole like, oh, is this going to be the next trendsetter or anything? You just got to find stuff that you're interested in and find a way to market it correctly. Like that's the easiest thing I can say. And I know it's the most generic thing I can say because everybody says it, but it sucks because it's like, it is true. Every time that I try to overthink this shit, like to Adrian or Luke, or even just like my dad, like this week I'm explaining analytics to him. And it's like, as I'm sitting here, like trying to explain it and overthink it, it's like, it's not that hard, but there's so many moving components and parts to everything that you have to factor in that like every other week I have a different theory about why certain videos failed and why certain videos didn't. It's just craziness. So if you ever feel like you're tearing your hair out and like this is going to change things like drastically, don't. Just keep going with it. Just keep chasing it because it is very much possible. Everybody can do it.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a feeling out process. I think you're going to just have that moment of, is this working or not? Because we try to come up with these theories and things like that. And it's like, sometimes you just don't know, you know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes you can kind of have an idea of why something didn't work out or something really hit. But at the end of the day, you don't 100% know exactly because you could follow that equation for the next video and it just doesn't pan out. And it's really hard to put your finger on. So it's like, I know it's hard to say don't get discouraged, but it's just kind of maintaining the course. It's a tough road, certainly, because we still fall into that, even though, some of our videos produce a lot of views. Some of them don't. So it's like it's just still a feeling out process where we can kind of see maybe this is working out or that's working out. And then we just have another video that's like, nope, no one cared for that one. So let's move on to the next thing. It's just kind of, staying the course and pivoting. You're going to do a lot more pivoting than you think.
Yeah, it's always experimenting. It's mad science, but I think like it's definitely, it's still one of those things that it's mind-boggling and it's rewarding, but it's also just like I think all the pressures that come with it are, at the end of the day, a lot of it is just internal, and it's all the same imposter syndrome BS that everybody tells you to do. Because like even it's like you look at things where it's competitive, some will fail. Well, you have benefits and retirement. I mean, in theory, no, we don't have benefits, we don't have retirement, but it's what we make out of it. It's like if we get it to the point where we're pulling in enough AdSense and things like that just to pay for our living all in all without any extra stuff at all, that'd be amazing. you know, but ultimately it's like we're still building it, we're still figuring it out. And I think really like the biggest thing we want to do with this, like at the end of it, like the goal would be to hopefully use it to, you know, maybe get a movie off the ground eventually, like really just, you know, make something with you guys, like really show you what we got and hope that we can earn your support to get something small made. Like that would be the ultimate, like I think give me that any YouTuber who wants to be a filmmaker would go for, really. Like I think that's what a lot of people would say.
I think so as well. I mean, I'm certainly in that frame of mind as well, because it's like you watch so many things, and I know I'm certainly I do this a lot where it's like Dylan and I will be talking. I'm like, this film was interesting for a certain point, but then it's like you see potential in it. And you're like, well, they could have done this or they could have done that, and it's like that'll spawn a completely different idea. So it's like even watching a lot of films now, I find myself like being more so in the creative space of like, even if a film wasn't good, I'm like, why wasn't it good and what could they have done better in those aspects of it? And then it kind of just spawns a completely different idea. So I know, like, since being able to do this regularly in watching films and things like that, it's like I've come up with so many different grains of ideas that could be like, oh, well, this could be interesting. So it's like I think that creative space has certainly grown just as a byproduct of having to review films or revisit films for hidden gems and things like that. Because it's like you really get to analyze why things work and why things don't.
Yep. And I mean, that's the thing too with Luke and I, like both being different halves of this. Like I think like collaborating a lot more on the list recently have been like, I think they've opened up a lot of different doors and gotten more people used to both of us working together more. And that's great. And I think like one of the things that is interesting though is like when you go through the history of our channel, it's like, yeah, Luke is very technical. He like even long before I really like started incorporating more facts behind the scenes stuff, like he was already doing a lot of that. He was already like talking about just like the filmmaking, things like that, as to where mine was more describing my emotional like experience and attachment to things and what I kind of saw into it. And I think that just like really shaped two different sides of our channel. And I feel like within the last year, we've kind of gotten to mold that a little bit. So I don't know. It's been interesting. I think like for all the like bumps and curves we've hit along the way with like ups and downs, I still think like for the most part, the videos we've been making recently have been some of my favorites. Like I think some of the best work we've put out, just like content wise, it feels good with the stuff we're making right now. And I think, whether they are successful or not, I think that's been kind of at least one thing that I've been really happy with and able to look back on and just be like, at least right now, I don't feel like every video I'm putting out is like, oh, I put so much like of my own personal effort into this one thing, as to where Luke and I now can really like share the entire process, which has been huge. Because before it was really just us, basically just each of us working on separate videos and then doing these together. So it was like it's been really good, and I'd say really beneficial. I don't know, maybe Luke doesn't think so.
I absolutely hate it. No, no, I think I love the topics that we're discussing on those like collaborative lists and just what we're able to tackle, because it's like, you get to angle it from a different way as to whatever the topic is. So you get to find, I think, more interesting conversation with it. I know, at least from my perspective, it's like trying to find some sort of different avenue for each different pick on the list, and then getting Dylan's perspective of it. It certainly makes a variation for editing, because it's like, having to sit with your own stuff for so long, for like over a week at times, you begin to hate it, because it's like I'm staring at this all the time. Now, the way that we record something to the time that it's out is a way quicker process. So it's like, and it's a shorter process for us getting editing wise and then getting it uploaded. So that's always nice.
It's weird because technically it is more work at the end of the day, because we're working with 3 racks of footage as opposed to 1, but like because of how we're doing it now, it's like it is really like just the efficiency, I think, has just really gone up. So it's like I think that's been really huge, like for both of us, especially creatively. So I'm excited. And yes, we're still working on stuff. Like Luke's still working on his solo gem stuff. And, I think the big thing is like we're trying to find those specific series that we kind of have always had pretty good rapport with and have always been pretty good. Like on my Never Watch Again stuff, like is coming back. And like that's stuff that we get to work on now, but because we've been able to get ahead with these joint lists, like, and they've really taken off, that's been huge. So I think like hopefully the next couple months, like Luke said, especially as we get into Splatterthon, I think that's going to be where a lot of this will hopefully be rearing its final form, and you guys will be able to see what we've been cooking, because I think it's given us a lot of plans and extra ideas for how we can tackle some of these. But I just realized we've been blabbing for 40 minutes about us and YouTube and other bullshit, and I'm sure some of you are so checked out that we should probably get into some news, fellas.
Let's do it. Well, I've got an abundance of news for you fellas, so let's hop into the first story here. Mike P. Nelson is heading into the Amazon with a colossal ancient snake, but the film appears to be aiming for more than just creature carnage. With Kiana Madeira, Jessica Roth, and Logan Marshall Green facing a monster inspired by an ancient Amazonian legend, there's an intriguing mix of survival horror and mythology. The production even ventured deep into the Amazon, putting the cast and crew directly into the dangerous environment that the movie is trying to capture. Could Beware Biona be the kind of creature feature that brings the giant monster movie back in a big way?
I watched the trailer of this, and first off, I just wanted to say the trailer was so exceptionally edited and just well made, and the sound and just everything about the trailer had me so excited to check this out. I dig some creature features. I'm not like a huge creature feature head. But recently I had a dream that there were freaking alligators in the tunnels I was walking through, and that was pretty freaky, dude. So I'm ready for some creatures. Okay, no, going back to Boina, right? Is that how you say it?
Boiona.
Boina? Boina? I don't know. I'm sure.
BOILUNA. I don't know.
BOILUNA, that sounds like a rap name or something. BOILUNA, I like that. No, but for real, so yeah, it just looks super cool, man. And exploring this ancient legend, there are certain couple creepy visuals that I loved, like the wooden mask guy going shh, that was super cool. The visual of the giant fat ass boa just like leaping after people and killing folks, dude. I'm excited. This looks like it's going to be a dark film, a very just visceral experience. So I think I'll be seeing this one in theaters, y'all.
Yeah, that's a great point, Gracie. The advertising so far is very strange. I don't know why they're going for that. I mean, it works, I guess, for some people, but like I think they just need to like lay off the memes, like, because it feels like they're trying to lean into almost like what Anaconda did, and that was like what, last Christmas or something, where they were trying to do the whole comedy Anaconda thing. But like this, I know, because funny enough, Mike P. Nelson, we actually interviewed him. You can check out our full interview on our Patreon with him that I did for Silent Night, Deadly Night last year. And I don't think it's included actually in there fully, but at the very end, you can hear us talk for a couple seconds about this movie, which was named Titan, because it was based off the Titanoboa. That's what they were originally going to call it, but they changed it to this. So that's what they're going with now. And he was mentioning how excited he was to put this one out, because they've been doing a whole lot of new stuff that he's never worked with before as far as effects and things. But the thing that he was really excited about was working with Alan McElroy again, Alan B. McElroy, who just did Wrong Turn, which was the reboot remake, which we're big defenders of here. So I think that pairing, and how excited he was about that, because he had just wrapped up filming this and said that it was like one of the hardest and biggest shoots he's ever done. And he thinks it's going to be hopefully a wild, bloody, vicious ride. And he says that the script was just one of his favorites that he's ever gotten to participate in. So I'm excited for it. I know that he's just trying to sell a movie, but I'm ready for it.
I'm excited for this one as well. Like, I'm a big fan of Wrong Turn as well. I think that one was a really interesting, just palate cleanser from what we had gotten from that franchise for so long. So I'm excited these two are working together again. I know Mike P. Nelson did a longer form interview, and I think in that one he mentioned just how he didn't want to make just another basic creature feature. It's like, yes, we have this big boa that's going to be in there, and it's certainly a centerpiece of the story. But one of the things that he goes on to talk about is how he really wanted to create a film that felt like it was a movie around these characters, so that we do care about them before we get into that threat. And like how we talked about End of Oak Street and how well they built that foundation, it sounds like that's what they're going to be doing here as well. It seemed like the team here really wanted to make that a focal point. So it sounds like you can get lost in the story before we get into the big threat. Because it's like, yeah, we're all coming to see a giant snake film and to see what kind of horror those that element can kind of bring. But I'm excited to see what kind of character development we're going to get here from just the relationship perspective, and how well we resonate with these characters, because that's a big part of this battle. As long as, you know, the actual snake itself looks good and it looks believable, that's a big selling point. But then if you don't care about the characters, like I said, we just watched 5 films that we hadn't seen, and there's one film in there that I didn't care about any of the characters. So it's like, even when we got into the actual thread and selling point of the film, I didn't care. You know, I was really checked out. So I think, you know, that's going to be a big portion of it.
Which movie?
It was a shark film, and yeah, it was.
Oh no! Really?
It's such a bullshit.
You
film.
Piece of shit!
It
No,
was
I'm
so
kidding.
terrible.
Yeah, you guys will have to hear us argue about that. Yeah, no, it's I get what he's saying. Yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
So no, I was pretty much rounding out that point. So that's one of the big things I'm excited for, just to see how they're going to write these characters and what that relationship's going to be.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things I know Mike P. Nelson, especially in Wrong Turn, you can see when it comes to just like the foliage, the jungle, is like the dude really knows how to like light and set up scenes in heavy foliage, heavy jungles, and like the scenes with the I guess you'd call them like the tribes people with the kind of wooden masks and stuff that they had on and everything. It's like that just like gave me such flashbacks to those scenes of them like walking through the village and things like that. And I was just like so engaged. But the scene that like really like I think got me 100%, like I was already in for a big snake, but like what made me feel like this could also actually work and be pretty cool and scary a little bit is, or at least just a good time, is the scene where the snake is like going under the bridge, I think it is, or the dock, and you just see like just the scales underneath just very like faintly going through the each little slit. Like I was just like, that's the kind of like tension and stuff that I feel like we really need with this. Like they need to approach it like Jaws, you know what I mean? Just like really like take its time. Don't show it to us all at once, or just give us little pieces here and there until like the very pivotal shots. So I hope they do that.
Yeah, it seemed like they were able to at least capture some interesting tension through that short trailer that we got. But one of the things Mike P. Nelson did talk about was that there's already kind of, I guess, a built-in mythology around, you know, this BOILUNA snake. So, but there's a couple different ones. So what they kind of did was intertwine some different mythologies to create their own, which I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. And when we get deeper into the explanation of the BOILUNA and everything as to what that's going to be. I'm excited that they took some creative liberties and kind of created their own mythology here. So it's not a regurgitation of something we don't know, since they're just taking elements to everything. So I really like what they've come out and said so far, because it doesn't feel like, hey, we're just going to throw up this giant creature feature with nothing to offer. It really does feel like they had an idea. They wanted to create some characters who were actually going to feel for. And like I said, I like the way that the trailer's presented with the tension aspect, because I loved Anaconda as a kid. And I didn't watch, was it just called Anaconda that came out last year? That was like a
Anaconda with it was like a reboot. Like it was like a meta reboot where the Anaconda movie happened, but they were like big fans of it.
And I know, I think that one did not hit for a lot of people. I think it was way more comedic than anything else. So I really want to see them bring what made the original Anaconda film so great, because that was such a memorable experience as a kid watching that on VHS. And I haven't revisited that in a very long time. So I think I owe that one a rewatch. But I'm excited that we're getting a modern one that does feel like it's going to be handled like the spectacle that these films should be. And it's not just like a random low budget CGI thrown up on Tubi. No offense, Tubi's got a lot of great movies, but just thrown up with no care, and then just to get something out there. Say that's another snake movie. So this one, I'm excited to actually go to the theater to see this one because it looks like it's got some quality to it.
God damn it, I'm tired of nobody putting any respect on the name for Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid, the sequel.
I never watched it.
It's pretty good. It's not terrible. In comparison to where they go, holy shit. It's like up there. They're still trying to take it somewhat seriously. You know what I mean? Like it's right on the same I'd say about like caliber as the very first one when it comes to the tones. So it's like, you know, they have some humor, they have some characters who are definitely like a little bit more charismatic, but it's full of adventure and stuff. I think the only thing about this movie is like they get real ridiculous with the CGI snakes, with how big they get, like the inconsistency, which is another thing that I was very like kind of questioning throughout this trailer. Because it's like I just feel like snakes are so hard to convincingly like CGI scale like perfectly, because like in one scene it looks like it's the size of like, I don't know, like an entire school bus, and then the one scene where it's dry, where it's like slithering by her, it's like, you know, maybe the size of a rather large rolled up rug. I don't know. It's like it's just one of those where I'm just kind of like, maybe it's the perspective thing, but like I always feel like that's you run the risk of kind of running into the same thing Anacondas did, where it's like, you know, there's one scene in there where I think a dude's getting eaten by the snake after he got like bitten by the spider that like gives him paralysis. And it's just like it like the snake looks like it's the head of the snake looks like an entire truck like eating a man. Like it looks absolutely massive, but it's like the snakes we saw before underwater were literally like not that big. Like, what are you talking about, man? Forgive me if you guys can hear my cats, by the way. They're upset that I'm not letting them in.
That's because you're talking about snakes instead of cats.
I know.
You got to pivot. Let's talk about the movie Cats that came out a couple of years ago.
Ooh, banger.
Oh my goodness. Oh
my musical theater obsessed wife was so excited for that film, and then when she read the reviews, she was heartbroken. She's like, I'm not willing to go out there and be upset by the big screen. Sad stories, dog.
Different kind of horror film.
I'm excited for BOILUNA. I think that it's going to be sick. I really love how they edited the trailer, so I feel like the editing of the movie might be pretty nice and just kind of like, I don't know, surreal. And also, as a little kid, I really found the concept of giant snakes and serpents really fascinating. Like in the second Harry Potter movie, you know, the giant snake from that one. Really loved that when I was little. So this one's going to be a nostalgic hit for me, hopefully.
Yeah, I am like, I know Rob's talking about Lake Placid versus Anaconda here. Like, I just gotta say, Rob, my God, dude, the fucking like snakes in the later Anaconda movies, once they got to sci-fi, like, oh my Lord, they look like Dollar Tree snakes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a kid who's gotten many things from the Dollar Tree in my life, and I love them, but like, you know, when you just see like a toy snake where it's like they're just not even trying. Like that's what those snakes look like in those movies, man. Like they are so bad. Like, hold on, I'll see if I can find one while we're talking here. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I think all in all, this is just like it's Mike P. Nelson, a director I love already, and I think he killed it with Silent Night, Deadly Night. Took some risks with that, so in my opinion, he can do whatever the hell he wants with this. I'll be there for it. It's a big snake movie, so you guys already know I'm there for it. But like, as far as like a director that I'm ready to support and be excited for tackling something like this, like this is a big win. So don't let me down. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited for this one as well. I think, you know, Silent Night, Deadly Night was fine for me. It didn't work on all fronts. I think maybe what in comparison, Wrong Turn worked a little bit better for me. So it's like
I would agree that Wrong Turn's the better movie.
But you know, having the team back here between the two, I think is going to be the most interesting portion, because I think Wrong Turn had a great handle on just the development of how that story goes before we get into the all out mayhem of what that film is. So, I feel like this is going to follow that trajectory where we're going to have a decent time with our characters before we even get into the threat. But we all know Mike P. Nelson has a great understanding of horror. You look at Wrong Turn, you look at Silent Night, Deadly Night, two different forms of horror. So it's like him tackling a giant creature feature like this also does have me excited just from how he's going to approach it, because Wrong Turn, Silent Night, Deadly Night, two very different films. So I'm excited to see him add this to his tool belt and see what he brings to the story, since it's already kind of an established mythology. So he kind of has a perspective already, but since they're bringing their own flavor to it as well, and also those elements of horror, this is going to be a really interesting horror, I guess, horror beat, because we haven't seen him tackle this. At least not that I remember Mike P. Nelson tackling any sort of creature feature like this. So I'm excited to see what he's going to bring here.
Yeah. I think he's gonna knock this out of the park. I really hope he does, because again, I support the dude. I like what he's done with a bunch of the other properties he's tackled, and yeah, creature features, guys. You know me, I'm always gonna support them right up until they're terrible. So, like that's and even then, I'll admit I have watched some movies that are bad multiple times because I can't help myself. I have a condition, and I need help. Anyway, I did find a picture of the snake from Anaconda 3. Just because, like, if we're gonna start judging snakes, we need to see really where the bar is in hell with this one. So, yeah, he's ugly looking. Look at that. That barely counts as a snake, man. Like, in my book. Like, what is that?
That looks like a real snake. What are you talking about?
It's not
Shut your
squeezing
mouth.
hard enough.
Shut your mouth. You're lying. Look at that. What is that?
Holy hell. This was a straight sci-fi film?
Straight TV. Yeah. They all look like
It's
that.
the eyes
like,
for me, dude.
It's the eyes, and it's the fact that their neck is like so much thinner than their body. Like, why?
The second one was a theatrical release. Is that correct?
Yeah. The second one was a theatrical.
I never saw it. I had saw it playing on television, but never committed to watching.
I'm not saying it's essential viewing. I'm just saying it's decent. So don't let the quality of 3, 4, 5, and 6 or whatever they go up to, like spin you wrong. That part 2 is at least watchable in my opinion. So Anaconda 3, I saw that on a smut channel once. Oh my god. Snakes. I'm sorry, Eric. I forgot. Not there. Oh man. But anyway, moving on from the snake story, what do we got up next, Luke?
Let's have a little Bruce Campbell news here. Bruce Campbell is once again weighing in on the direction of Evil Dead, and he has some pretty strong opinions about what the franchise has been missing. After 3 increasingly grim movies, Campbell wants the series to bring back the humor, colorful visuals, and a protagonist audiences can actually root for. Despite those concerns, Campbell has high hopes for the upcoming Evil Dead Wrath, praising director Francis Galuppi and expressing confidence in what the next installment could bring to the franchise. With the 3 newest installments of Evil Dead films putting an emphasis on gore and extreme violence, have the modern Evil Dead films become too serious for their own good?
I will be the first one to say that I very much think that this next installment of the Evil Dead with Wrath is going to harken back to the styles and kind of like all the stuff that basically Bruce Campbell's talking about here. I think that this is going to be a love letter to that. Just talking to Francis off air, knowing just kind of like where his head was at when he first got the job, and really getting to see the kind of tones and stuff he talked to us just about in his head. Like, it really does seem like he is in love with that very, very first Evil Dead movie and the kind of the campy, cold, classic, simple nature of it. So it's like, I really think we are going to get the Deadites with the white eyes. We're going to get the like kind of white pussy blood stuff again. Like it's all going to be there, guys. I really think it will be like classic Deadites, or at least as close to them as we can get in the modern day.
Yeah, certainly for me, I have high hopes. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago with Evil Dead Wrath. Just what Francis Galuppi brought with Last Stop in Yuma County. And when we talk about colorful, look at that film. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is so vibrant, and he really makes use of just that setting in general. So I easily think when we talk about bringing back the colorful nature of Evil Dead films, I think Wrath is easily going to produce that. I think from his writing standpoint, I think he's going to have some characters that we, really do care about. I don't know necessarily if he's going to lean into the comedy. I think that's going to be a bigger sticking point because it's like what I love about Evil Dead 2, and um, uh, Army of Darkness is that they have such a flavor to them that I think worked for that time. I think the big problem is going to be that we don't have what worked so well for those films, and that's Bruce Campbell. I think, you can't recreate the Ash character, and he has such an interesting delivery that we all just love his charisma. But it's hard to find that kind of comedy aspect in actor to bring into these types of films. So I think when we had talked about Lee Cronin, one of the things that I had brought up was that I feel like, looking at Evil Dead Rise and what he did with that film, there was a little bit of a pressure to make something like The Mummy also as graphic and gory like that, because that's what people are going to expect. So I think, it would benefit Evil Dead to kind of have a variation of these films and not get too just pinned down to producing a lot of gore and a lot of extreme violence. I know that's what those films are to an extent, but also kind of bring a variation to the storytelling so it doesn't become just a big giant kill reel, which I feel like there might be pressure even from Sebastian Vinicic coming out of Evil Dead Burn saying his next film has to be gory to some extreme to what he did with Evil Dead Burn. So I do want to see some sort of variation. I just don't know necessarily how comedy. I think that's a balancing act. I don't think you can take the comedy from those first three films and bring it into more modern Evil Dead. I don't know if the audience is going to be there for it because I think it was kind of for the time period in what worked. So I don't know if an audience is going to be as open, because if you brought that into the 2013 version, I don't think it would have been as much of a hit as it was, where people go back and say that's a really well done remake, sequel, or whatever you want to call it. I think because it was more serious and gory and violent, that's why that one excelled. So it's like that slapstick comedy, I don't know necessarily works in a lens of 2026.
Yeah, I was actually going to say two things about that. So I agree with Erica, I believe said it. No, it was Gracie and Erica actually. But yeah, Byrne did have some comedy moments that were not tone deaf to the established tone of the newer movies. And I feel like I like this newer sort of seriousness that we have with the Evil Dead movies. The stakes feel a little higher. I like my horror to be a little hard hitting and a little sharp. And I feel like Byrne, definitely had some of those funny moments there. It's not going to be like the original films, but, it never will be like the originals. So I feel like if Wrath took a sudden turn to have more funny moments, it would hit kind of like, this is really arbitrary and unrelated, but like how I felt about the later Borderlands series humor of like Borderlands 2 and 3 after a game like Borderlands 1. It just felt like two different souls, you know what I mean? It's all part of the same soul at the end of the day, but I like what they're doing with the newer trilogies so far. So, I don't really have a problem with that. And if they have more type of humor like we saw in Burn, hey, that's a win-win in my book.
Yeah. As far as this question goes, Necro, I think the titles were already selected, if I remember correctly, but I think that was just like the only parameter they were kind of given, as opposed to just like what the tones and things they could get. They still had a lot of creative freedom from what I understand. For the most part, I know Sebastian Vinicic was like very open about that during a lot of the interviews for Burn. And I have to admit, like, I think like so far it seems like Francis Galuppi has had nothing but a blast on this one from looking at his Instagram and stuff. So I think everything will hopefully be servicing the best. And I think that only the titles may have only been that way just so that way they could have like, because like I said, they've been kind of wanting to almost have this as like a pseudo, almost like Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, where it's like you can kind of now look at those as Evil Dead by Dawn, and then there's Army of Darkness. It's like they try to rebrand them like that. I wonder if that's just kind of the mentality there of just like, we're just going to have Rise, Burn, and Wrath. So that way they can put them out there all together on a box set or some shit. But, you know, beyond that, I think they have full like creative freedom on it. But for me, when it comes to this, I think like, yeah, I'm fine with either. I think that both versions of Evil Dead live like symbiotically in my world, at least, where it's like, I've spent so much time analyzing these movies for like a timeline video I did now, like between that and the series. And I think that might be the key missing factor for a lot of people here. If you didn't watch the series, which I know Luke hasn't, and I know Adrian hasn't, that is very much in the same tone and style of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. And like, it's 3 seasons. So I would say it's basically like almost 2 movies worth of content there. And like, I think overall, it's like, it very much shows that you can do the Bruce Campbell led Evil Dead style, like kind of classic Evil Dead in the modern day. It's just that you got to have somebody who's willing to, I guess, commit to that on the cinema level, like on the cinematic level, which I think Francis Galuppi is very much willing to do. I think that he would be the one who, like you said, if you look at Yuma County, it's colorful characters. It's very like, you know, scene chewy kind of dialogue stuff that like Sam Raimi is also known for. Especially if you look at Army of Darkness, it has that kind of balancing act between being like gut busting slapstick comedy, but then also having some horrific, like disgusting monsters, just like it's like, I think he can do that. And I really do believe in him. And I think that even though I don't think it'll ever get as crazy back to like even what they did in the series for Ash versus Evil Dead, I think that it will at least be as close that we're going to get in the modern day when it comes to Wrath, as far as getting that classic Evil Dead feel.
And, you know, looking at the series, I guess my questions are when we look at something, yes, that's an Ash-led, you know, vehicle for Evil Dead. So in one of my critiques for like something like 2013, if they tried to implement a new Ash, people who love it and are critique that we don't have that kind of character anymore, would it be like, well, they're just trying to make this character into Ash. This is never going to be Ash. So you damned if you do, damned if you don't. In that aspect, again, I think the trouble is going to be you can write that character, but to find a character that is going to pull it off like Bruce Campbell is going to be very hard, especially when you're dealing in the same franchise, because it's always going to look at as a replication rather than an authentic new version of something. And then also when you look at something like Ash versus the Evil Dead, like you said, it's 3 seasons. When we look at that and the kind of slapstick-esque comedy, I haven't seen it, so I don't know how close it is to the original. I assume fairly close, but when that's spruced out through 10 episodes, 8 episodes, does that feel different than a 2-hour film where it's like you're hit after one beat, slapstick comedy, slapstick, you know what I mean? Where it becomes, this is too much comedy for my horror. And so it becomes kind of a little bit of a task. And yeah, I think Send Help was great. I think, you know, I think it's got certainly the Sam Raimi elements, but I think like something like Drag Me to Hell and Send Help have a little bit of a better balancing act, I think, for what we look at for Evil Dead. Because I think, you know, Evil Dead, what I love about those films is that they lean into more of the slapstick humor. And I think Drag Me to Hell and Send Help certainly do have some fun comedic aspects, but I don't know if I put it in the same realm of Evil Dead. I think Teo for me hit it right on the head here with it. Undercurrent. That's how I feel with my horror, where it's like you can have some comedic elements, but it can't be overbearing where it's like it feels like too much.
Yeah, and Werewolves Within is one I really need to rewatch, because I feel like I didn't give that like it's the best and the fairest shake when I first watched it. Like I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I loved it, because at the time I saw that right around the same time that we saw The Wolf of Snow Hollow. And that was one of those things where if you know both of these movies, although I will say we get real werewolves in one, it's like the other one, it's like the comedy element was kind of like, I just want real scary werewolves, please God, at that time. And then we had 8 for Silver come out shortly after, and then I was satisfied. But like, you know, still, it's like I think like, yeah, that's a great movie that does do that. I think Tucker and Dale versus Evil is another one that does a really good job of mixing the comedy and the horror, where it's like they still have some really gory, over the top, violent moments, but they also still are very funny. And yeah, I think Evil Dead is kind of in a very like special spot right now, where it's like, you know, the movies have been committing to this kind of harder edge, but I do think that like we could easily see them pivot back to kind of that, you know, not necessarily with Bruce Campbell himself, but them kind of pivoting back to that style to give other people a chance. Now they say like people are like, oh, they like only Bruce Campbell can play Ash. Like, and I think purely yes, like that is where I sit with it too. Like he's going to give us the best, and I don't want them to like necessarily give us Ash as another actor. But what I'd like is to see people like Mia come back, or somebody who like we've gotten a chance to see, you know, like I was really hoping we'd see her again, because like, you know, we've gotten so much time to like really get used to her, and she has such great like ties to everything now with her losing her brother and all of her friends and stuff. Like she would be a great person who has experience to pull into a future Evil Dead movie to fill that role. And I think that she wouldn't necessarily be Ash equivalent, but she would be, you know, somebody who could have, you know, really step into that, in my opinion. And they could write another character to do that. But like, yeah,
she could fill the void.
It's like if you're going to do the full blown Raimi comedy bits, like you just got to know that you're playing with fire there if you don't have it under control. And that's going to be a really tough act to follow. Because yes, I agree. Send Help, fantastic horror comedy, hits those elements great. But again, it's like that's Raimi, a master at it. He's been doing it for 40 years in film with us. And it's like we've seen it over and over. I mean, like, I talk about Darkman nonstop on this fucking channel. That movie is both ridiculous, heartbreaking, and incredible. It's a superhero movie and a horror drama. It's amazing.
Yeah, real quick, I did want to add that I could definitely see Mia being like an Ash equivalent type character with the chainsaw arm and all, dude. I mean, it's already set up.
And it doesn't have to be like an exact like one for one. Oh, I'm Ash from another unit. It's like, no, don't do that shit. Just make her own character. But like, yeah, she would be somebody that I think has already like has enough clout with the fan base, I think, to step into that, especially with Alyssa Sutherland's Maggot Mommy being a villain type character that's come back. So,
and you know, like looking at that and circling into that conversation where, you know, we talk about there's a distinct feeling from that original trilogy to what we've seen from 2013 and beyond, where you're talking about Mia. And I think Mia is the perfect central character and to bring back and to follow some sort of journey, but that doesn't, when people talk about it's, these 3 films have lost what the original was with the comedic aspects. It's like what I've reconciled in my brain is that Ash is like this would-be hero, just circumstantial. He is a comedic character in himself. He brings the slapstick comedy into the Evil Dead franchise. Mia does not. Mia does not have the baggage of comedy. So it's like you're going to get a different vibe. You're not going to bring in the slapstick stuff that a lot of people reminisce about from the original 3 films, because when you have, I think any sort of slapstick comedy character is going to be in the Evil Dead franchise that is not Bruce Campbell is going to be compared to Bruce Campbell and say it's probably going to be lesser than because it's not Ash. So it's like you created Mia because we needed a badass character, and that's why that character works. I think you would have trouble creating another kind of comedic character in this universe because it's going to be compared inevitably to Ash and be like, it might just feel lesser than, unless it's really well done. Again, you could create a character. It's going to be the biggest uphill battle of your life to do that. But
because I think when I think of a character, I think of like Pablo is somebody who plays perfectly against Ash. Again, this is in the series. But like those characters that he goes with throughout the series, like they play perfectly in that where they're a little bit more stoic and a little bit more serious at times, but also like we got to remember the kind of wackiness slapstick that we're talking about the Evil Dead is still very fucked up. Like it's still very messed up shit. Like we're using slapstick as like a term as like it's slapstick, but it's like intestines being slapped against somebody as they fall down steps. You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those where it's like I think like they can probably do it, but again, it will take somebody who they have to go in with it with full confidence, and they have to really trust the process and understand how to pull punches and where not to overextend jokes and things. And that's the thing, like you have to be really even-handed with it, and I think there's very few people who can really ace it. And that's why I think like the other movies have been kind of chasing this harder edge, because it is interesting, it's exciting to see it, but also it is something where it's like, yeah, how are they really going? Because not to like speak for the man, but like I'm just spitballing here, but like Francis Galuppi was offered Darkman first, which again I just talked about that. That's a very Sam Raimi property. Like that's a very Sam Raimi idea. And the idea there of like how do you like sequelize that? How do you reboot that and do it justice? He couldn't do it. He said that it was something that like he tried, he sat with it, he thought with it, and he came to terms with it and said, I don't know if I can do this. And then they came to him with Evil Dead, and he felt really good about a concept he had there. So it's, to me, it just shows how challenging and just how talented somebody like Sam Raimi truly is when it comes to this, because like even somebody as talented as Francis Galuppi that I really believe in as an up and coming filmmaker, he had to step back and say to one other Raimi property, this is a little bit too much. This is a little too hard for me to feel like I can do justice. And I applaud him for being able to say I can step back from it, but also being able to come into this and say, I have full confidence that I can handle this. So it makes me, that's really where I sit in the long-winded circular talking that I just did. So
Necro makes a pretty cool idea here. The mother in Burn was kind of half Deadite, half human. What if someone could get the Deadite abilities without succumbing to the psychosis and be a protagonist? That would be super cool. I'd love to see if they could do something like that personally.
It'd be interesting. You'd have to almost be like, if you've seen the series, it would have to be kind of like Ruby, if I'm not wrong, like kind of how she handles things. But like the way that like Necro's talking about it, though, if they were to portray it in the sense that Byrne did, yeah, it's that would be very interesting to see how they would wield it, if they could even like keep out the, I guess you'd say, the evil influence, but only use its abilities. So like Blade, yes, Rob, good call. Very good. Yeah, that would be sick. Let's do it. Blade in the Evil Dead universe. Oh my God. Let's go. I'm ready.
But and I think the expansive lore and mythology that Evil Dead carries, it opens itself up to these variations of stories. So it's like when you have something like the original Evil Dead in the same trilogy as Army of Darkness, I mean, those tones are really expansive, and you kind of get tonal whiplash, I think, with a lot of the stuff. And I think that's part of the charm of Evil Dead. So it's like you can really almost do anything within the mythology here. I think there is room for more of a comedic take coinciding with a more serious take. And I think you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. It just is a balancing act. It's especially when you fall into the realm of comedy, because it's like I can always like boil it down to having Bruce Campbell deliver the line of groovy, and that is so iconic and great. But for anyone else to do that, you have to be very charismatic.
So hollow.
But in terms of even for it to not come off as cheesy, even if this wasn't established already and someone in the newer franchise wanted to say groovy, it's going to come off as cheesy and lame just because it doesn't work for the time and there's no charisma. But you'd have to be very charismatic, and it's hard to do that. Bruce Campbell established it, and he was able to excel at it. That's why I think it's harder to plug in those comedy aspects or in an already established Evil Dead franchise that has some comedic roots to it, especially when you don't have that central character to do it. So it's like you can do it. It's just, again, a very big uphill battle to hit it. And I think it does have to be like how Teo said earlier, it has to be that undercurrent, because I don't know necessarily if you can go full blown Army of Darkness with it, because it's like that is a very specific take. And I think it works for what it is, but I think you can only do that one time in a franchise like this. And I don't know how well something like that was received through a more modern lens in like 2026 or in the years coming. I think we are getting into the weird space of horror where we just want to see some really weird shit. So it's like maybe it could work depending on the take, but that's what I love about this mythology. You can do almost anything in this franchise as long as it's written well. It can somehow fit into a pocket of Evil Dead.
Keanu Reeves could do it. Goddamn right he could.
I mean, Keanu Reeves,
Johnny Utah, absolutely.
I could see Keanu Reeves doing it. Yeah.
He'd be a pretty intimidating deadite, not gonna lie. But I think one of the things that crossed my mind here is, if you've watched the series, spoiler alert, the ending of the series ends with Ash waking up in a Mad Max post-apocalyptic future, with him like in these souped up vehicles and stuff. And I guess like the whole like deadites have taken over the earth, and it's like it's full-blown apocalypse style town now, and he's about to go like Mad Max Fury Road in there. And I'm just saying, like, if you could do it, like you could do Army of Darkness one time, but you could do Mad Max. And I'm not gonna lie, if George Miller ever had the inkling to do an Evil Dead movie, I think Sam Raimi would be absolutely crazy to say no to that, because George Miller and Sam Raimi, they feel like they get on, they're on the same level, the same wavelength when it comes to just like, they can do stuff that's really like humorous and very light, but then they can also do stuff that's like really fucked up and dark. So it's like, I think that's something I would like to see. George Miller doing an Evil Dead movie, if only.
Word.
Well, Lucas, what do we got next, sir?
And do we want to do another story, or do we want to hop into our retrospective?
You motherfucker, you just don't want to talk about goddamn Crawl 2. Anyway,
listen, I made this layout, so
now we can wait till Crawl. All we know is Mason Gooding and another person got cast, so it's like,
I'm excited. I keep forgetting about the sequel, to be honest. And
we'll get once a trailer drop. We're gonna do a video once a trailer drops. We'll talk all about, because like that's one that I'm excited for 100%.
I still have
such a treat.
I still have to watch Alligator from like 1980, and that's what it's like. I'm excited to see this change in scenery, to be honest, and see what they can make work. Because when you're in New York, I mean, it poses so many different kinds of elements for a flooding, alligators showing up, things like that. I think could be a lot of fun. I think that the change in scenery has the most of my attention. Not so much the cast, but like what they could actually pull off here is rather thrilling.
One image that comes to mind is that one hurricane that blew through New York a while ago.
Sandy.
Yeah, dude, and the famous picture of the sharks in the metro. I want to see that.
Bullshit, but like, that was probably fake. But I guess that was that was cool though. That idea, absolutely, brother. I feel you. That's like, that has always brought some like sparks to mind, especially. Yeah, see, Gracie knows too. Yeah, it's.
Shit, I can't dream, dude. I can't.
Yeah, I think though, the same energy that you have when you see that photo is exactly what I hope this movie is, dude. Like, I do like, so it's an apartment building in New York, right? That's kind of what we're getting pitched here. Like, is it just like on the Jersey Shore or whatever? Or like, how I'm very curious to know like how they're going to integrate the crocodile. We don't have to get into it. I'm sorry, but like we can get it. We do have to talk about Friday the 13th Part 4. We have a lot to say on that, but I am very curious as to see what they're gonna do with this, because that's a very cool, like,
because it says partially submerged New York City.
Oh, see, I love that. Like, it's okay. Could you imagine if it's like, Hurricane Sandy situation, and it's like, what if it's like the crocodiles from the local zoo, or the alligators from like the zoo? Oh my god, it's gonna be great.
So many gears turning in this guy's brain.
I just want to make one of these movies. I just want Alexander Aja. Like, I know I've never proven myself or anything, but like, let me make Crawl 3. Let Luke and I do it. We got this.
I just want this one to be like a ex-former crocodile that worked on Wall Street has since been excommunicated. He's been out of work, and then finally it's like the storm comes, and he's going to start killing people because everyone gets revenge.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Crocodile of Wall Street.
Oh my, it'll work.
I want to see a crocodile in a black I was going to say tuxedo, but that's not quite the right suit that I had in mind. Whatever those dudes, whatever those crooks down on Wall Street wear.
It's a bowler suit.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anyway, we are about to transition into the Friday the 13th review series there, folks. So, as some of you know, and if you are here for the first time, we've been taking our good buddy Adrian here through the very first few films in the Friday the 13th franchise, leading all the way up to the release of Crystal Lake. So yeah, I think we're gonna get through all of them, aren't we? Like,
we should.
At first, I thought I think initially the pitch was we were gonna go up to like 6, but like I think we'll get through all of them because we started early enough. So either way will be a great time because yeah, you need to see the whole series, and why would we stop anyway? But this is a big stopping point. Dare I say, this is probably the biggest, like the first big pillar that we're going to cross in this franchise, as far as most people who are fans of, I guess Friday the 13th in general would say that this is top 3 Friday the 13th material. And that is, of course, Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, which I can say is Luke's personal favorites in the franchise, as well as my father's. He did mention that this week, so I figured I should mention that.
A man with taste.
Absolutely, yeah. And I get it. I do. Even though I'm a Part 6 lover, that's where my heart lies. It's
like 1A, 1B, to be honest.
This was my favorite for so long. I loved 3, and then then it became 4, and then it wasn't until like maybe after 2020 that I just think Part 6 just really won my heart. And like I just fell in love with that movie. Just watched it. It was like a comfort blanket to me because it's just kind of fun with some spooky stuff. It's great. But like, yeah, this is an all-timer. So Adrian, take it away, sir. How are we feeling? Friday the 13th, Part 4.
Boom. So now I'm probably gonna lose some favor with Luke and Dylan's dad here, but I have to say, just rip the Band-Aid off. This is probably my least favorite of the 4, dude. Not saying it's like bad or anything, you know what I mean? It's a good, it's on par with the rest of them, right? But, basically we start off in the hospital and we kind of have this like comedic scene with this like gross human being of a doctor. He gets brutally murdered, of course. But yeah, I mean, that was a cool open there. And then, we get into the new survivor group, the group of teenagers going to have some fun by the lake again. And all these teenagers, dude, they just seem to be lacking even more brain cells than any of the other groups. And, that was kind of like a blessing and a curse in a way. They were funny, but like, we had like the 2 dudes in the back, the one of them's trying to spit game at the other guy. What was he calling him? What was he calling him?
Dead fuck.
Yeah, dead fuck, dude. He just kept on calling this guy a dead fuck. So I was like lightweight hoping that this guy was going to like lose it on him or be like, not going to save this guy's life, when Jason inevitably comes later. But, that's okay. I probably was wrong to expect something like that. But anyway, we move on with the film. They get to the house, and I liked what they did with having like the small family that lived in the one remote home that was right next to like the one that they ended up going to stay in. I'm also confused. Like, was this just a random abandoned house that they decided to go to and like party at? Or was this like some building that one of them owned or knew of? Do you guys know?
I think it's a family cabin, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were just
Higgins Haven.
It wasn't abandoned or anything. They were going to have like a week or whatever of partying, and then there's a family next door. Is just by chance. So yeah, so it wasn't like abandoned or anything. They were specifically going out there to just have a group of friends go out there and have a good time.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. They rolled up in there way too casual for it to be just like a random ass house or whatever. Obviously the family would be like, "Hey, why are you going in there?" If not, but I don't know. For some reason, like I just didn't really make that connection. I was, at first when they got there. But either way, they get in there, they get settled, they go out to the lake, and then this random hitchhiker guy shows up, and he was like low key my favorite character for a good bit of the film here. I forget his name, but he was coming through to avenge his sister or whatever, who died in like the second film, I believe. And that was a cool angle. I was like kind of stoked to see what this strong, strapping young hitchhiker guy, he's got like a rifle on him. He's got a machete. Like he seems tough. I guess my honorary mention, my favorite character is probably like the little kid, the little dude. I forget his name, but he lived in the house next door to where they were partying at. The guy with like the masks and stuff like
Tommy
that.
Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis.
Hell yeah. So he was just such a fun character. He just kind of like he played his part really well. Just that kid obsessed with like media and doing cool shit, making masks, playing video games. He was like being a peeping Tom on the girl across the way there. I mean, that just sounds like a kid in an 80s horror film for sure. And he was just hilarious. I love how he brought the hitchhiker and he's like, dude, check it out. Look at all these masks and all this shit that I have. And the guy's just like, okay. That was awesome, man. That was pure awesomeness. So yeah, they get out to the lake and Banana Girl was the best character. Dude, Banana Girl. Wait a minute. Who's Banana Girl?
The hitchhiker. At the very beginning, she's eating a banana and then gets a knife right through her neck.
Oh yeah, dude. They like roll by her and she throws the peel at them or something like that. And she hears something like snap in the woods and then he comes up behind her and, stabs her through the throat. Totally forgot about her. She was cool. But anyway, once Jason gets to killing, man, he sure does get to killing. And, they had some pretty good looking kills, I'd say, with each movie here. I feel like the kills are, better pulled off. They just seem more like the actual effect of like the blood and the stabs are more realistic and things like that. I'm trying to think if I had a favorite kill. Nothing really stuck out to me from what I can remember. I think the girl getting killed in the boat was pretty interesting. I think that, who was it?
Jimmy with the corkscrew.
Jimmy with the corkscrew. That was a pretty raw kill right there. He's killing me. He's killing me. Ah, dude. I'm so glad that you commented that. That was hilarious. I remember thinking in my head at that moment, I was like, would anybody while getting stabbed and like getting killed, be saying that? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, he was just telling you he's going to die. But, when Jason gets a hold of you, you're definitely going to die. Friday movies have the best minor characters. The next movie has best minor characters by far. Okay. Stoked about that. We might see a little.
They have top 2 in part 5, probably. Would you say, Luke?
I would think so.
Yeah.
For my take.
And I always forget what his little brother's name
Reggie
is.
the Reckless.
Reggie the Reckless.
My
That's
all-time
what it
favorite
is.
characters. And I can't wait to talk about that one. But anyway, that's
next week.
Yeah, that one's going to be, I'm stoked for the rest of them. But I kind of like how there's a lot of moments where you thought Jason was going to come up, but it actually ended up being the hitchhiker guy. There's some part of me that was kind of stoked about like the little bit of romance that was going on between the older daughter of the family next door and the hitchhiker guy. I kind of liked that dynamic that they had. I will say I was pretty disappointed that hitchhiker guy never really got his revenge, man. And it'd be too cheesy or maybe even cheap if he did. You know what I mean? I was expecting though, like final chapter, maybe he might at least get a lick on Jason, man. But nah, he got killed in the basement, and that was that. I was wondering if they were going to kill that kid. I was wondering if they were going to do it, but they didn't, obviously. So that's cool that we didn't go there with it. The mother, dude, the mom, she didn't deserve it, man. We didn't actually see her get killed outright or see her body. But we can infer, from her getting jump scared right before the cutaway that she's gone. But all in all, I got to say it was a fun ride. It just didn't really hit as hard as the last three, in my opinion. It's not a bad film though.
Interesting. All righty. Well, I did not expect that, to be honest, but I'm also very interested to see. So which one, if you're what are you putting at number one still?
I probably got to say part 2 is my number one.
Okay.
Part 3 is really close. Part 1 is my number 3, and then obviously part 4 here, final chapter, has got to be my number 4 of my list.
Yeah, I like that. I think I you know, honestly, like looking back on how much I loved like part 3 when I first started watching these and stuff too, like growing up and everything. I mean, it's a very iconic one. There's a lot going on in that movie to love. I do feel like Shelley and stuff is pretty underrated in that one. Plus, like the kills are good, but 4, I think like it is just, to me, it is one of those ones where I cannot fault anybody for putting this at number 1. I think that is just such a well-rounded, well-oiled machine of a Friday the 13th movie that I think without this one, this to me really ties those first 4 movies together. They feel like a complete like end of a first act in my opinion. Once you like have watched this franchise through and through time and time again, I feel like you start to look at this as the end of the first act of the Friday the 13th saga. And I love that. I think there's a lot to love about this. I think this one, again, is the most well-rounded. The characters are certainly, I think, some of the best as far as just like, you know, memorable. Like, again, I think the older sister is what's her name? Trish. That's right. Yeah. I think she's great. I think that the relationship between her and Tommy is great. But again, I do think that all the kids and stuff are just at the right level of annoying and kind of
they were
goofy.
Annoying, dude.
This is, to me, where it's like they are the whole Crispin Glover, which I love. I love Crispin Glover, but it's one of those things to me where it's like I think overall they are the perfect like Friday the 13th like video game modeled off of them, like kind of like attitude where it's like this is the most well-rounded, perfect victim of a Friday the 13th movie. They're just a little bit annoying, a little bit sympathetic, and at the end of the day, they're all just trying to get laid, and Jason's not going to have it. But I will say, I know part 3 has the hallway kill, right? With him getting slashed down the middle. This one though, how about the shower kill in that, Adrian, with the hand crushing into the face?
Yeah, I gotta say that was, I remember kind of like learning or knowing somewhat about Jason's like low-key super strength. And I remember when I saw that kill, I thought to myself, okay, here we go. We're kind of really seeing where that infamous strength comes in. And I really love how the practical effects were done. Now, my apologies. Did his eyeball pop out in that one? Or am I thinking about part 3 still?
No, I think he also like kind of pushed it out at like, right, Luke?
I can't remember offhand. I don't remember his eyeball popping out.
I wasn't paying attention when I rewatched this yesterday. It was
smashing him by his face, but
I know like he like grips him real hard, yeah. But it's like I think the eyeball does pop out. I think you're right.
Yeah, and did they have like a popular eyeball kill in the third one?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure they did.
With the harpoon. The harpoon is always the very popular one. But I think there is another distinct one, or the eye stands out for some reason. I just know like
it does.
Like,
I was gonna say that, like, what was the creepy old man that scared one of them with the eyeball? Was that in this one that we're talking about?
Was 2.
That was in 2. Damn, I'm all over the place. Whatever. Reusable eyeball prop.
That was 3. That's
it wasn't Crazy Ralph. It wasn't Crazy Ralph. It was
he's laying in the middle of the road. Remember when he kills the couple at the convenience store?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Crazy Ralph. They always have some doom-saying, freak of nature. No, I'm just kidding. That's mean. They always have some doom-saying older, kind of like, I don't know, just a doomsayer, man. I like that theme that they have going on. You're all going to die. Don't go there. This is a warning.
You're doomed. Yep. That's part of the whole mythology of Friday the 13th. Kevin Bacon got me to start. Plus, in 1984, Quicksilver, Footloose, Whitewater Summer, and Friday the 13th were my mom's go-to movies for us as kids. Yeah, I mean, probably about 9 years old when I first started really watching horror movies. Like, yeah, like these were go-to movies for me, like growing up in the summer, like just putting on Friday the 13th, especially like we've talked about it ad nauseum on here, like the summer movie or no, October Fear Fest, all that AMC. And whenever they'd have those marathons, man, it's like on TNT and everything, like I'd be watching them like crazy. So yeah, it's like they were always on in my house.
Lots of
Yes,
loose
very,
eyeballs rolling around in the series. Facts.
very true. Yes, this was the next part I was going to ask. So, how do you feel about Jason's death in this one, Adrian?
Jason's death in this one was pretty nuts. I remember how he didn't die from the axe chop in the third movie. So when I saw him initially get stabbed, or at least fall kind of like on the machete, I was like, that's not going to work. We actually did have a death fake out, at first, and then he gets back up just as I thought he would. But then when he gets back up, and then what's his kid's name again, dude?
Tommy
Hold on
Jarvis.
now. Tommy Jarvis, dude. He comes in hacking him to the point where his older sister is like, dude, chill out. Stop. I thought it was really goofy how he got in the mirror and started like shaving his head and shit out of nowhere. I was like, what is this guy doing? Why would you ever do this while your sister is like screaming her head off, getting possibly killed, But it makes sense. Kind of the same idea as, Shelly, I believe her name was, with the second movie, how she was using psychology against Jason, which seems to be kind of like
Ginny,
Ginny,
the main protagonist.
Word, thank you. She's using some child psychology on Jason, and we kind of see that sort of happen here with Tommy shaving his head up to almost kind of look like how Jason did when he like leapt out of the water to get the first final girl of the first movie, with like a little bit of hair sticking out, but mostly bald, looking pretty messed up. It was interesting how he was like kind of like, I'm you, kind of giving him that vibe a little bit. And then, starts hacking him to death. And then I like how when she's in the hospital and he comes in, and you can tell she's like a little worried about him, and he's acting a little weird too. So, a couple of you guys have been talking about like we're going to see some Tommy Jarvis maybe in the future, I believe. I'm excited to see what comes of him.
Yeah, this also, like I said, it ends the first act, but it begins like, I guess very much what you could call like the second act is what you would also deem as the Jarvis trilogy. This is the first of the next 3 films, all centering around this character to some degree. And really, it's like, in my opinion, even though I wouldn't classify part 5 as peak Friday the 13th, I think part 4 and part 6 and, this era of Friday the 13th is still like peak Friday the 13th, in my opinion. And it's like, this is someone who adores the remake, adores Freddy versus Jason, all those, even loves more fondly now Jason X and part 9 and even part 8. It's like this franchise means the world to me. So it's like, this is something where even I can say like, this is probably where like I said, well-oiled machine part 4, but things get really good after we take this slight detour, which admittedly a lot of people weren't crazy about, but I think you might be a little bit more open to, since you're not approaching it how a lot of us did.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. A lot of my growing up, I feel like I was seeing like some of the Halloween costumes, the marketing. Have a good night, Erica. Thank you for joining.
See you, Erica.
The figures and things like that they were putting out of Jason. I feel like I'm going to see kind of like what a lot of that immediate hype was about when I was growing up. So yeah, I couldn't be more stoked for it.
Yeah, you'll see all the nerdy shit when you come back over. You'll see all my NECAs over here. You'll be like, oh, I know what this one's from. I know what this one's from. When we talk about shit getting announced, it's like, oh my God, I wish we had money for that. You'll be like, I know what that's from. No, don't do that to yourself. Don't buy these. They're dangerous. We'll gift them to you, and then that's it.
What a guy. Appreciate it.
But no, I think like this one, to me, it's like, although I am surprised that she ranked it so low, I have a feeling it may grow on you as the series goes on, but also upon rewatches, because like I think this is one that as I'm sitting here taking it in, I don't fault you, because again, I looking at it from my perspective, I was the same way. Like, I thought that, 3 was my favorite for a long time, but then, like, as I sat with it and grew with the franchise, this one went up more and more. But at the same time, we are in peak era of Friday the 13th. Like, they're all so great around this time. They all feel consistent. They feel fun. They feel loose. They don't feel like they're really trying to do anything all that complex. And, it's just a good time. Good slasher movie, This is like
Mhm.
this is like good camping movie stuff.
Yeah, I'm digging it. And, again, Friday 14th final chapter wasn't bad, It's just not my favorite so far. I mean, the least favorite of the 4, but still not bad, man. But who knows? Seeing these newer movies and stuff, it could change for sure, just like you're saying.
Yeah, I do fault you for your take on that, Adrian. Sorry.
I knew it.
I think, this one is, my all-time favorite. I think when you look at part 3, where coming in as a Friday the 13th fan, or just knowing of the franchise, you're waiting for him to get his hockey mask. This is the one where he has it the entire time. I think this is like peak Friday the 13th. This is the formula everyone's looking for. Even the opening where we have the crime scene, we cut to the hospital, we rolled Jason past the room in the gurney, and it's like you have a family back there crying. It's like, I love that they open up this world where it's like those types of things we wouldn't normally focus on, but it's like we linger on a shot of, yeah, it's like we have an actual world going on. One of the Axel's kill, I think, is one of the most brutal in the franchise, and just flipping his head. And it's like we start with that. Even the nurse gets it real quick. The way that we jam that scalpel right down, like into her and then down. It's like it feels very mean. Even the little details of Jason's fingernails being black. It's like we start getting those elements of he's still human, not fully supernatural, but we're starting to get those elements of, okay, he's very strong and he can really do a lot of things. And it's like, even it took me a first few viewings, but it's like even putting him into in the coroner's box there when he's going to be in the freezer, it's like you see the breath come out and it's like, oh, he's still alive. So it's like I love those elements of him getting back to just the cabin in the lake. And it's like I love this aspect that we've seen just these kids out at a summer camp and we're dealing with camp counselors. Now we change up the dynamic. It's a mom taking her kids out for the summer, coinciding with this group of teens wanting to go party. And it's like I even love the cast of characters that we see, because it is like the epitome of what an 80s cast for a Friday the 13th film should be. It's like I love the dynamic between Ted and what's Crispin Glover's name? I'm forgetting. Is it Jimmy?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, I literally just had it.
Anyway,
Jimmy, yeah, it's Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, between those two, where it's like he's doing the fake computer and he's Crispin Glover's leaning completely into it. He's like, well, what does it say? And it's like, I love that was just an off the cuff kind of them bantering back and forth. And it's a reoccurring thing throughout the rest of the entire film. And I think it's well rounded in the sense where I think some of the cast is annoying, where it's like, they're meant to be, where it's like,
Yep.
I think Crispin Glover gives us the dance everyone talks about. It's funny, but it's an iconic moment. But then also you look at a character like Sarah, where she is just in a relationship. She says, I think I'm in love. And it's like, she's a very earnest type of character and then gets an axe in her chest. So it's like, we kind of really do make use of each different character that is in here. And then going through the Tommy Jarvis character adds a completely different dynamic. We've only dealt with teens. Now we did a whole list on weaponizing childhood, and it's like coming from a kid's perspective, it feels like even more of a threat. It's like, is Jason going to actually kill this kid? So I think it even ups the ante to a certain extent. But then I know, Adrian, you're talking about him making the masks. That feels like the equivalent of growing up painting action figures, where it's like this fun kind of childhood habit that you have. And you can almost feel this kinship to it. It feels like a very authentic character, especially where that character goes eventually. It's like you get to see him at his most innocent point here, his most he's not tainted in any aspect. And I love those elements to it. And it's like I think to have that approach of just this family that's out there supposed to be having a great family summer, and then Jason shows up, creating the Trish character. She delivers one of the most badass lines of, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you something to remember us by," and it's like she's got that machete, she's going full force at him, and I think that's why um, this is one of my favorites. It has just such a great DNA to what Friday 13th should be. Even Ted White as Jason, he's one of my favorite portrayals. Him running behind Trish, getting from one cabin to the next. He's not as full on creepy as he is in 3, but he certainly has those elements. And I think that's what I like about this one is like him grabbing Corey Feldman through the window is fantastic. It's like, I don't know. This one really does work on all levels for me. It feels like it has the DNA of an 80s film, and it really has that solid foundation of what a Friday the 13th film should be.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I'm a big fan of it. And it's like it's interesting because, like, again, like we're not hiding it at all. It's like 6 is my favorite, which is like on the other side of this pseudo trilogy within this series. So it's like it's interesting. It's like your favorite is the beginnings of Tommy Jarvis's story and kind of the climax of what Jason in his purest form. And then like my favorite ends up being the end of that trilogy, seeing him in his next iteration, which would basically be zombie Jason from then on out. And it's like until the remake, really. So it's like I think it's very interesting, and it just shows like where we go in the next 2 entries here is just like so out of this world, like next level for this series. And it's like it's really going to, I think, either seeing how you took this one, I think you're either going to be on board or off when it comes to 6, and I'm going to be very curious when we get there.
Yeah, I'm psyched, man. Now that we've gotten to talk about this, I can go ahead and watch the next one. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yep. Part 5's a trip. It is one that, again, I hated when I first saw it, but I also hated Halloween 3 when I first saw it. And it's just because, again, you got to think Jason's not in this one. So, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think this one has gotten nothing but better with age. But also I said the same thing about Part 9 and Part 8 and X. So it's like, I might be too biased. I don't know. Luke would agree with me that Part 5's gotten better with time, but
Part 5, I think you can appreciate more now that it's not the one you have to go to the theater to see, because if you're looking for what you want from Friday 13th, you have the availability to watch any of the other ones.
I feel like that movie gets better if you become a bigger Friday the 13th fan.
Yes, because
you appreciate so much more about it
from what we normally get. So that's why I think that one works. Especially,
and I think it's got great ideas.
That's what it's like when you look at something weird. This goes back to even seeing a horrible film and seeing great grains of an idea. And I'm not saying Part 5 is a horrible film. I think it has so many great ideas. Reggie the Reckless is one of my favorite. And when we talk about a sequel to any sort of Friday the 13th, I think that is one of the best characters to take, especially when you look at things from his perspective. So it's like I think Part 5 opens up so many different doors in terms of storytelling. And that's why it's like I love to go back to that one and rewatch it, because it is so different, and it does get you asking so many different questions about Friday the 13th in general and where you could go from that story and the characters that are involved. And I think that's why that one is so interesting. And I just wanted to bring this one. Joe was talking about the Rejuvenator. Stick around. That will be popping up rather soon. Not on the next list, but it'll be here rather soon.
I know Luke and I have been busy boys with these dueling lists, so it's like we've been working together a lot, but I've been keeping him away from his gems. But I know he's been building up some more stuff, so is one of my favorites now. See, and that's the thing, like I get it. Like I think this is a great trilogy, and I'm excited to rewatch 5 because it's been a couple years. I think the last time I rewatched it was when we did the Tommy Jarvis video. For Friday the 13th a few years ago, and like that was a very positive watch for me, so I'm excited to see what this one holds, because again I think this one is actually, surprisingly enough, may pop up on a video for me that I kind of pitched to Luke, because I thinking about one particular scene. There's a context there's a lot there that could really ruin this movie for some people, and I think for me it did, especially with just how mean-spirited it is. But we'll get to that next week. So it's interesting. So part 5 is going to be a very crazy one. And I think was it Gracie who said that this one has like the most like iconic side characters? And it's like, yeah, it's definitely got easily 2 of the top 3, if not like top 5 material of Friday the 13th of overall, I would say.
I think
as far as like just memorable characters go, this one's got 2 aces in it.
Yeah, this one I'm really excited for a rewatch on. I may even start watching this one tonight. It's like
I thought about that too as I finish up uploading tomorrow's video.
It's like, and I don't know how to explain this one. It just feels like part 5, since it is so different, it's like without consequence in terms of viewing, because there is no necessarily any weight to this one, just because of what it
Good way to put it, Joe.
Yeah, and that absolutely makes sense.
And that's the same thing I would say about part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. Not a great Jason movie. Fantastic, like slasher, supernatural force movie.
Yeah. Yep. The thing that holds us back is Friday the 13th film.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is why I think this is my favorite series at the end of the day, because like, although many people criticize this one for being like the same thing over and over again, I feel like this of all of the, maybe I could say Nightmare, you probably say does a little bit more. So that one you'd have to probably put above this, but I think way more than Halloween, this is a franchise that stretches its legs. And it tries things and it does weird things with its characters. And I appreciate it so much for that. So maybe that's why it's my favorite. I don't know. I may have to do an entire video essay on this franchise one day before I die, just to like find out why exactly this is my favorite of the slashers. But just like, I don't know. It just feels like home to me. I love these movies. Like they just, for all the crappy campiness that they are in some of them, it's like, they just feel like a warm cup of tea. Like they're just great.
You know, and I think one of the things about Friday the 13th is you look at it. Friday the 13th was the most consistent horror franchise, slasher franchise out there throughout the 80s. So it's like you get a flavor of almost every year of the 80s where Jason Takes Manhattan feels very different than part 2, you know, but then part 2 feels different than I think part 4. So it's like you kind of get a bunch of different flavors and experiences of how the 80s were subtly changing throughout each installment, because characters feel different in some aspects. Just the presentation is slightly different. And then where we find ourselves in the storytelling is different as well. So I think we kind of, where Halloween took such a big time from 3 to 4. And then I think, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, they didn't necessarily, I think that, what was the first one, 84, I think, something like that. And you're dealing with the dream world. I don't think you get as much as a variation in terms of just living in the real world as much as you do with Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and it's like I always kind of discount just like how much later, like in the 80s and through the 90s, Freddy was for most of his run. Like he was dominating through that sphere, as to like Friday the 13th is very early on. It's like right after Halloween in a lot of sense, like just a few years. So, you know, it's, yeah, love this franchise. But that brings us to the end of this segment here. Thank you again, Adrian. Glad that you are enjoying it as usual. I'm excited again. Next week is going to be the big one where we're going to see how he feels about part 5. Because yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious. He might love this, because this is going to be a very big change of pace, and it might just be the right one. Because like that's the thing, I feel like we could show him, you know, the first 3 Halloweens, and he'd probably say part 3 is his favorite. I think he could say I wouldn't fault anybody for like coming out with that. And that's the thing that's so interesting about watching these now, especially like because like I think about watching them as a kid and then watching them now. It's like just the perspective shift is insane. So. Oh, but yeah, anyway, that's gonna wrap us up here, folks, for this week's show. Thank you as always for sticking with us on the Sunday Scaries. We're a couple of sleepy boys ready to go off to Sleepy Land. So there you go. But no, this is great as always. I appreciate you guys for sticking with us. So much great input, so many great comments, and just little things here and there popping around so we could all chat and discuss. I love talking about Big Snake movies. You know, Bruce Campbell, I agree. I want some slapstick. I want some raininess back to the Evil Dead franchise, even though I am still madly in love with what we have now. And yeah, I think overall is a good show. So thank you as always. And yeah, look at that, Luke. We got through it. No power outage. We were very afraid.
Yes.
There was a big thunderstorm earlier today and it knocked out power for me. And then it was like supposed to come back. So it was like, oh God.
We made it without incident, guys.
As always. But hell yeah. But yeah, anyway, before I forget, we do have a big video coming out tomorrow. Lots of fun. We were talking about some of the stuff that we've seen this year and some of the stuff that we've not really gotten to dive into yet because it's just so fresh. So I really enjoyed this. It was great. Luke and I had a good time doing it. And I think the video is super awesome. And also, if you are not subscribed to the Patreon, might want to do so for this one because this one's the Patreon version is a little bit longer. And just with the topic at hand, you'll see when it pops up tomorrow. It's a tough one for YouTube and the censors. They did their job, but I got through it. So we're doing. But anyway, that's all we got. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
I'm Luke Janesco.
I'm Adrian Morris Jones.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, Splattercast,